Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. Understand the Rams have not yet played the Vikings. Let's talk NFL playoffs. But first, remember the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's go through the picks from my pre-week video. I had the Chargers. They lost. That bet lost. I had the under 42.5 points. That bet lost. 44 points were scored. Ravens against the Steelers. I had the Steelers getting 10 points. That bet lost. The under hit. Right? Bills versus Browns. The Bills covered. The under hit. The Bucks versus the Commanders. I had the Buccaneers. I was actually laying points in that game. The Bucks lost, but the under hit. So right now, my week is a 500 week. It's going to depend on the Rams versus the Vikings. In that game, I have the Rams getting 1.5, right? When I made the bet, the Rams were playing at home. Now they're on the road. That doesn't affect how I see that matchup. Let's talk about this coming week. Let's talk about angles I like, developments I think can be exploited. Let me point out that one rookie quarterback had problems week one of the playoffs. That was Bo Nix, right? The Broncos only scored 7 points that game. The other one, I tip my hat to him, Jaden Daniels, looked good against the Bucks, had a couple of touchdown passes, won that game by 3 points. Keep in mind, he's not just a rookie. He was playing on the road. I tip my hat. But what I want people to realize is that the rookies who typically win their first playoff game, think Brock Purdy, think C.J. Stroud, they usually go on to lose because the playoffs are a different animal than the regular season. Right? What I want people to do is to look at the amount of interceptions Justin Herbert threw during the regular season and look at the amount of picks that he threw in his playoff game against Houston. Right? Look at the amount of picks that Jordan Love threw in his playoff game against Philly. I'm just telling you that the defense has changed. There's a special list of plays that defensive coordinators save for the playoffs. So Jaden Daniels is going to go up against a very well-rested Detroit Lion team. While I'm not completely sold on the Lions, I am for this game. Understand, Daniels will be playing indoors. I understand he went to LSU and has some experience playing indoors. He has no experience playing indoors in an NFL playoff game. Right? They're going to be playing indoors. Daniels statistically doesn't do as well when he's rushed. Right? They were able to get away with a lot of read options in that Buck game. I think Dan Campbell and Detroit are going to be ready for it. I just don't like the line. I'm looking at the Action Network right now as I make this video. The Lions are favored by 9 points. That's too many. Right? Understand, too, the over-under is extremely high for a playoff game. 55.5 points. That's a very high over-under. I'm just afraid that the Lions have a lot of pent-up energy and themselves against this Commander defense might put up 35 points. Right? So I'm staying away just because I don't like the lines from the Washington-Detroit Lion game. But I do believe, I expect the Lions to win that game. I'm expecting Jaden Daniels to have problems. Now, if he continues to live the charmed life he's been living, understand, he's likely to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Folks, his first year in the NFL, he made the Pro Bowl, right? And of course, he's just won a playoff game, right? If he continues to live his charmed life, then you're talking about a guy who is extremely well positioned to, if the Commanders can perform a miracle, and keep in mind, they're playing against the 1 seed, if they get by the 1 seed, and if they're then able to get by Philly, the team I believe is the best in the conference, Jaden Daniels would be an insider to win Super Bowl MVP. I'm staying away from Washington against Detroit. Let's talk about Baltimore against Buffalo. Let me say this. Weeks ago, here online, I flatly said that there's Lamar Jackson fatigue. That regardless of the numbers he put up, the likely MVP was going to be Josh Allen. Now, we all saw the game. Understand, a lot of people are looking at the numbers, and Lamar Jackson has better numbers than Josh Allen. Also, Josh Allen, of course, won a division. Lamar Jackson won a division as well, right? Lamar Jackson, of course, has something like 900 rushing yards. So you're talking about a guy who has done some unprecedented things in terms of, passing for more than 40 touchdowns and also having these huge rushing totals. So the people of Baltimore have taken it seriously. They started yelling MVP during the game. Lamar is viewed as compelling because many people have figured out that Josh Allen doesn't have the numbers Lamar has. Now, I'll concede that Lamar Jackson has a shot at winning the MVP. Right? I'll concede that. I still think Allen wins it, but let's just say if you're a speculator and you want decent odds on a quarterback who has the best stats and who won his division and who's well known and who won an All-Pro designation recently, right? Many of the same voters who vote for All-Pro are going to vote for MVP. Just understand that Lamar Jackson has moved, in my opinion, from longer shot, right? There was a point here where Josh Allen was something like a 4-1 favorite to win MVP. Just understand Lamar Jackson is viable. If you have throwaway money, consider putting a few dollars on it, right? Let me just say, for this game, Baltimore now is a 1-point favorite. I like Baltimore over Buffalo simply because Baltimore's defense, the last 2 months of the season, has been playing better football, right? Also because as good a rushing attack as the Bills have, right? And it is spectacular. If it's late in a game and I need a horse to get me that first down, I'm giving the ball to Derrick Henry, right? Let me point out, too, going back to the season, Derrick Henry was magnificent late against the Cleveland Browns, right? Henry carried it over to the playoffs. He seems to pick up steam in the second half of games. I don't believe Lamar Jackson has ever had a horse like this in the backfield with him. In other words, Lamar has had problems in the playoffs, but now he has a monumental safety net, right? I like Baltimore laying the point on the road against the Buffalo Bills. This game's also intriguing. Both of these teams are elite running teams. I'm a bit shocked that the betting the over-under is 51.5 points. That seems high to me. Right? Because understand, incomplete passes stop the clock. When you're rushing the football, that shortens the game. I like the under 51.5 in the Baltimore-Buffalo Bill game. Right? Those are the only plays I'm going to make. Oh, let me say this too. I got Houston late last night plus 8.5 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. Right, folks? The Chiefs are not who you remember them to be. They are a great defensive team. They're not so high-powered offensively. Let me also point out, too, and it needs to be pointed out, I was in a sports bar sitting next to someone. We were watching the game. Neither of us were Houston Texan fans. Let's just say Nico Collins is back. This is a different offense. C.J. Stroud, second year in the playoffs, was on fire. I mean, he was on fire in a way that Jaden Daniels was not. This is a guy who can throw it deep from the pocket. He has, great arm talent. He also seems to have one of the unsung heroes of the playoffs in his backfield, right? The world is focused on Saquon Barkley and, of course, on Derrick Henry. They deserve it, right? They're great backs. I would say talent-wise, Joe Mixon belongs in the conversation. He's the back for the Houston Texans, folks. He had a spectacular second half. Houston is clicking, right? I'm grateful to have the 8.5 points. If the line jumps up just a little bit from here, I believe if it gets back to 8, I would jump on that if I were a recreational bettor. Just understand, though, that the game is at KC. KC is going to be rested. You understand, unless your name is Joe Burrow, you're going to have problems playing KC in the playoffs. That's how I see it before the Ram-Viking game. I'll give you my thoughts after that game, depending on the time. Let me hear from you. If you see things differently than I do, tell us about it in the comment section of this YouTube video. Also, if there are other angles that you want to explore here, feel free to tell us about it in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let me also make another point. You saw Philly yesterday. Philly looked good. Philly was not operating at anything close to 100% in terms of efficiency. A.J. Brown, in my opinion, one of the best receivers in the league, right, was ignored to the point where we're hearing stories about him reading on the sidelines, right? Just understand there's going to be a game in these playoffs where A.J. Brown is completely unguardable, right? This is a big-time receiver. Mike Vrabel, the new coach of the Patriots, was livid when his front office traded A.J. Brown. Vrabel understood the talent level here, right? As good as Philly looked, and let's face it, the margin of victory should have been bigger. Saquon Barkley's a class guy. He had a clear path to the end zone. He decides to end the game by not taking it, by sliding instead. The first down allowed Philly to just run out of the clock, right? But just understand, as good as Philly looked, they're even better than that. Let me point out, too, that according to my internal ratings, the team that would give Philly the toughest competition in the NFC were the Green Bay Packers, right? I don't consider either the Vikings or the Lions to pose the matchup problems that Green Bay would pose. And of course, they got Jordan Love to throw picks. Folks, that's a huge win that Philly just got. Right? So I'm expecting Philly to come out of the NFC. Right? Why? Because of the playmakers. Not just A.J. Brown, but Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. The experience. Understand, Jalen Hurts led Philly to the Super Bowl, and they had a double-digit lead on Pat Mahomes going into the second half. Right? You got experience, you have talent, you have, in my opinion, the conference's best defense. Right? And of course, you have a fourth down play that seems to be the most automatic play in football. Right? If it's 4th and 1, you know Philly can roll the dice and get it about 80% of the time. Right? I expect Philly to come out of the NFC. I expect Detroit to beat Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, who've had a great year. But again, a rookie quarterback in the playoffs is a rookie quarterback. Right? In my opinion, Jaden Daniels is operating right now on borrowed time. Right? I give him credit. Commander fans, if you feel differently, tell us about it. I'll agree. He looked good yesterday. Right? No question about that. But let's just say Philly, to me, is a team to watch. Let me just say the most disappointing performance for me personally over the weekend were the Chargers. Right? The Chargers could not stop C.J. Stroud. The Chargers, with one of the league's better secondaries, had no clue how to stop Nico Collins. Collins is up around 100 yards, and, you were barely into the third quarter of that game. Justin Herbert is not a turnover machine. You couldn't tell that watching this game. Right? The Chargers let a golden opportunity pass. They have a great defense. They would have been a tough matchup for anybody in the conference. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.